What's up, everyone? So today I want to talk about why people buy expensive cars, expensive mansions, and how it relates to evolutionary biology. So basically, the whole idea is that people buy these things that are far beyond their utility in terms of how much that person can possibly use it for. So think of a 100-bedroom mansion. That person can't sleep in a mansion and at all 100 rooms at one time. So why do they buy all these big things? Well, there's a lot of reasons, possibly to show off, um, and to show that they have wealth, to do it for fun, and so forth. And yet, when you boil it down, is it really that fun to have this fancy mansion or this fancy car? I mean, I see all the time. I see these people who they'll be driving these cars and they'll almost be convincing themselves, or they will have convinced themselves that, oh, I love fancy cars, I love fast cars, and that's why I bought it. And you start asking them about, like, well, why do you like these cars? Do you even know anything about the engines or why this works this way? Are you really that passionate about how the mechanics of this engine works or how it looks? And that's what I want to focus on today. One of the big reasons people buy these expensive, flamboyant things, whether they will admit it or not, and it is to show off to other people. And we will go to evolutionary biology to kind of demonstrate one of the core reasons why this is done. So essentially, it is to show off that you have a lot of resources, either to attract mates or to show status amongst peers or other people. And the reason we do this is to attract mates or to court other people or show off to other people. Some of it may be due to a low self-esteem. Some of it may just be for glamour, pop culture, because that's what you think you should do. That's what you think is popular. But I want to talk more about mating. So it's similar to the peacock who shows off their flamboyant plumage. And the reason that these peacocks do this is to show that they can waste an excessive amount of energy and create all this plumage despite it being a hamper on their survivability, because it's so large it will probably preclude them from escaping predators, and it'll make it harder for them to do so. And yet they still waste so much energy to do so because it is a very visible sign, again, note the parallels, to potential mates and potential people that they may want to mate with, that, hey, I can waste so much energy and look at this very clear display of how ornate or amazing my resources are, and therefore you should mate with me because my plumage is much better, and despite this I'm still alive, and therefore I have a lot of resources at my disposal. So you can see the parallels between that and humans and why they spend this money on this stuff. However, I think human culture complicates things tremendously. The fact that humans can think for themselves and all the small dynamics and factors with culture on top of that add to a lot of things. One of them being that your possessions own you more than you own your possessions. Second off, we have the gold diggers. It's a specific phenomenon in humans, and we see this in other animals too, but it's more so like prostitution. It's exchange of resources for sexual intercourse. Whereas for humans, we have that too, but in terms of gold diggers, that is one of the big reasons why some people choose not to display these things, or they display them and they attract specific types of girls who are only after these things. Again, I don't want to generalize here, because generally speaking, there are many different types of females out there, many different types of people, and you have all different types of people across the gradient, from women who are just naive, new to the world, and they just want to chase the man with more resources, and they might they may heavily factor that more than other traits, because they've never experienced it and they really want to test it out and see if this would truly bring happiness and so forth. And you have other people all across the gradient, those who will get very offended if they're called a gold digger, those who make it a point to pay for their own meals, and you get others who have gone through the whole gold digger phase in their late 30s, mid 30s, successful professional women who either have a lot of their own money or maybe aren't rich themselves but have dated a lot of these wealthy women, wealthy men, sorry, and are trying to settle down. And they have realized that other factors, like really getting along with that person, and traits like compassion, is he a good father, overweight the fact that this guy's excessively rich. And I've seen cases where these women would take people who are not that rich and so forth, in place of these rich people for other factors. So you have all across the board different types of people. And the point of this is that when you look at these things, I think it's very important, because oftentimes people will ask the question, well, like, they'll be on two sides of the spectrum. They'll be like, oh, I don't want a gold digger. I don't want someone who wants me for my money, and I don't want someone who is constantly trying to get me to buy stuff. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you get people who are like, oh, women only like men with money. A huge, absolute extremist type of perspective. And a lot of people have this too. And so like, they're like, only people with money get girls. And that's why I can't get a date. And so you get these two different perspectives. And then when you put both of them side by side, it's kind of like, well, it doesn't even make sense. If women are only interested in people with money, then would all women flock to those people? And if that were to happen, then those people would be gold diggers, in fact, because they are so influenced by money. And then you don't want a gold digger either. So if you're someone with money, you technically, in theory, based on these two perspectives, can't win either way, because if you have money, you get girls, but they're all gold diggers. And then, like, how does that work out? So, you know, it's kind of mismatch. And I think there's more to it than that. You know, girls factor in a lot of different stuff in terms of what they are interested in. And first off, not everyone has money, and not every girl wants someone just with money. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you have all this money, you really want to consider if you really want to spend your time on these ostentatious displays of wealth. If you do, realize that it may attract certain types of people, and then on top of that, realize that these types of people will, in turn, they may be only interested in you for specific things. More importantly, you know, displaying this sort of thing, it can also show a lot of insecurities or low value, in that you have to show off in these ways in order to get this girl, and you cannot just talk to her without showing these things off as well. So with all that in mind, I also think that if you think about all this, you have to realize that there's and also a very interesting dynamic of how people with money can have a difficult time with girls. And I think, you know, understanding all this, it really sort of just alleviates you. It makes you realize that, okay, it's, you know, it's okay if I don't have that much money, or I'm not like a millionaire, because first off, there are plenty of people with money who are doing badly with women, and that may be difficult for you to comprehend or understand, but there are people out there like this, and I've heard stories of them. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically most of the time they haven't developed any other area of themselves, or they're not really doing well with women because they haven't found channels of meeting them organically, and a lot of other areas of them are below par or just average. And then if they do bring in money into the picture, oftentimes it overshadows them, or they get a lot of assumptions about who that person is before they can even really show themselves. So, fuck.